And I definitely have had like some experiences, you know, like I meddled with shrooms, as you know, on a very personal level, very, you know, quite a um, uh, very ritualistic and self,
Ceremonial.
yeah, very ceremonial to myself. I didn't do it with a guide or a shaman or anything. It was a case of I knew that I wanted to do it for 2 or 3 years. I held off because I was like, my mental state is not there. Like I can't hold myself. I know this is something I want to do alone, but I'm not ready. And then one day I woke up and I was like, yeah, like now's the time. And I went and got some and I took my time making my tea and like I put a lot of love and intent into the process. Like it might not have been a typical process as such, like where I'm supposed to follow a forum, but I did what felt right. And my first experience was the hardest experience I've ever had, like when it comes to internal healing and facing my internal self. I basically faced my dark shadow like in the first time I ever did it. And it was terrifying. For hours I was crying, I was screaming, I must have looked like a crazy person at the beach. And but the next day when I woke up, like I went home and I passed out because I was just so exhausted from all this exertion of pain and suffering and facing parts of myself that I didn't really know existed anymore. And then ever since then it's been like, like there is this part of me that I can hold, and I can love that again about myself. And I did it a few more
Are you
times.
able to talk through the process on that in more detail, what you went through in that ceremony?
So um yeah, it's very hard for me to call it a ceremony because, like I said, I didn't follow a forum, I didn't follow a format. I just did what felt right for me at the time. You know, I knew that it was something I wanted to do.
A
I
journey,
waited,
then, a journey.
yeah, the journey, yeah, and I waited years to do this journey, like this part of my journey, which was, you know, take mushrooms and really fall into the world of psilocybin, because like there's psilocybin in everything, you know. I think it's one of the defining scientific factors that everything is linked together because there's psilocybin everywhere. um, but yeah, I made my lemon tea. I ground my mushrooms down, I ground my herbs down. I had like sage, I had lemon, I had balm, I had all sorts of different types of herbs that, you know, I'd read online were supposed to activate my chi or unlock my chakras. And a lot of these things were things that I was a bit, you know, I don't know if I believe it, I don't know if I don't, but I can't disbelieve it if I don't try it, right? So I did all this research, got all my herbs together, ground it all up, put it in a pot. I didn't boil it. You have to like simmer it for a little while to activate all the ingredients. And then I put my tea down. I went and meditated for 10 minutes whilst my tea cooled down a little bit. No, I made sure that I had intent going into this because I knew that it was going to be a big journey for me. I knew it was going to be something huge. Like I could just feel it in my heart. Like this is going to be big. Like this could be good. It could be bad. It could be both. I'm terrified, but I need to do this. I'm ready. So I meditated. I had my intent, and I went and drank my tea. And I thought, right, I'm not going to stay inside because I'm an outward body person. I like being outside. So I drank my tea and I stomped off down to the beach with some music in my head. And by the time I got to the beach, things started to change. Like my visuals started to change, my physicals started to change, and I could feel this force within me, like being unlocked almost. It wasn't like I drunk something and then that thing went in me and expanded. It was like I drunk it and it unlocked just something within me, and I could feel it all coming out of my body. It was amazing. I sat on that beach for 4 hours, crying, screaming, staring into space, and I was seeing past versions of myself when I was a kid. Like I regained memories from when I was a baby and like a child, because the earliest memory I had before that was about 10 or 11.
Wow.
And then I managed, like now I remember like I've got a memory from when I was like 4, when I was like 6, when I was like 2, and it was like, wow, I never thought I could go back this far. And some of them weren't great memories. Some of them were, you re-experience the feelings that you felt at that time of that experience, and it answered a lot of questions about how I felt about myself, or what I needed to know about myself. I learned that I'm not destructive. I am giving. I am loving. I am I am love. Like I know that sounds so, strange to a lot of
It's
people
true, yeah.
that aren't open to themselves, let alone, the possibility of other people talking about it like we are. Like 10 years ago, if someone had said, oh, you're going to be on a podcast talking about these things, I'd have laughed at them, like sworn at them, put them down and been like, oh, you're a hippie, this, that, and the other. And now I'm here and I'm doing it. And I'm so grateful that I have done it. And I've met people like yourself in that time, because I know myself better now than I ever have done. And I look at, like, I've got friends around me, male friends at a similar age, and they say they know themselves and things like that. And it's very hard for me not to turn around and say, you don't know nothing about yourself. I see more of you than you can even admit that you know. And it comes with a lot of responsibility when you start opening those avenues up of that, like that consciousness, like from the front of your brain. Like I felt like it was such a process of unlocking my true self, and it was just the first step. It was just the first step. It was like I'd done all this work and I was like, yeah, I'm ready to like unlock this, and like, this will be like the last few things I've got to do. But no, that was close that book. This is a whole new book we've just opened. And now I feel like I'm like halfway through this book now. And it's like, oh, when is the next book going to happen? And I'm not so scared of it, but I'm still a bit apprehensive of what it could be. Where am I going next? And I used to worry so much about what that next step was, what it was going to invoke in me, like what memories or traumas or feelings. But now I've learned that it's okay to feel what I feel. It's okay to sit with what I feel, but long enough for me to do something about it, not so long that it holds me there.
Yeah.
Because I think that what I learned from my previous partner was that I'm very grateful for this from her, that I was able to sit there with myself, cry with myself, reassure myself, self-soothe. I think that's something that is so lost within men. We think we're self-soothing when we go out and get on the lash, do drugs, go drinking, sleep with women, but all we're doing is spreading our negative energy and our bad juju. I call it bad juju. We're just spreading our bad juju everywhere, because we're not holding ourselves enough to be able to go, this is quite toxic. That's okay. This is how it's made me behave. This is how I'm perceiving it. What am I going to do with it? Am I just going to ignore it and be ignorant and leave it there and then continue acting subconsciously like a prick, or an abuser or a narcissist? Or am I going to try and face this and really adjust my ego and adjust my inner soul to really act and feel and live? Like, live is the key word. You want to live who you are. You don't want to just feel who you are. You don't want to just see who you are. You want to live what you are. And I think since doing mushrooms, like, I've only done it a handful of times. I've waited, a month or 2 months between each session, because your brain can get used to it and things like that. I want to make sure I have the best experience I can in the safest way. And if I've learned anything, it's that I can now hold myself in those spaces without any um, any form of drug or healing medicine. So I do that because everyone has their own perceptions and definitions of what they want to call it. But now I can just sit, take myself off. I don't even need to do breath work. I can just sit with myself and really talk to myself. I can talk to me, like,
Yeah.
because I know who me is now.
Yeah.
And what I see here, like when I look in a mirror, isn't the truest reflection of what is in here. And I think that's the hardest thing to face, is like, you open Pandora's box, you start your journey, you get so far along, you look in the mirror and you're like, geez, I'm still further away than I thought. And it's kind of, that is the process. You, every time you look, you're a step further away from where you want to be, but you're still a step closer, because you get that step closer, but then it unlocks that next step that you didn't see as the end goal. So your end goal moves every time you move, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Sometimes it's like every time you win, you lose, and every time you lose, you win.
yeah. And like, if that doesn't make you want to give up at times, when you're having like a really bad day, like I had one last week, I was having such a really bad day. I've got a new job, I've got a new person, I've got a new home, I'm saving my money now, like, and I'm starting to get my life on track on a societal level. But then spiritually, I felt, geez, like, am I getting back into this lockhold again? Am I going to be back in this cycle? And I doubted myself, and then because I was doubting myself, subconsciously, I was self-sabotaging, and I had to address that with myself really quickly. I had to sit there and go, hey man, like, you're you're worried about this, but that worry is subconsciously causing you to create what you're worried about. So stop worrying and just focus on what you're doing. Keep that presence, and just take each day as it comes. It really, I hate that phrase, but it's so true.
Yeah. 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 And it's very difficult to embody that as well. It's very difficult to come into presence. But what I understand from your journey with that plant medicine is it helped you identify the vibration of your heart, the vibration of yourself, vibration of who you are.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
really important, because if you believe you are your ego, then you believe you are not love, and you believe you are
yeah,
fear, because the ego
yeah,
is a separational tool. And I mean, the ego is kind of the opposite of love. It is the fear-based failures of your past lives, essentially. And I think it's an incredible tool to be able to understand your own unique vibration,
yeah,
because then you can come into your own center. And when you know your own unique vibration, you can say goodbye or no to those invasive thoughts and
yeah. And
emotions.
I feel like I found that, like, I can also change my vibration to some degree now. Like, because I've now found it, it almost feels like I see my wave, and I've got like my little capacitor here, and I can just, oh, like, my wave is a little bit too jumpy right now. Let's just turn it down a little bit, and it levels out a little bit. And it's almost like I've got that, since I had that experience, it's almost as if I've been able to grab myself now. And previously, before, like, I started my journey, like, that thing that I was looking for was myself, but I never thought it would be myself. I always thought it was the thing I had to fix. It was always the thing that was the problem.
Wow.
And myself is not the problem. Myself is the answer. And that was really conflicting for me.